Good evening, everybody. It's 6:30. Today is Tuesday, November 21st, 2017. And this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. If you will stand and join us in the pledge, we'd appreciate it. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Randy, roll call, please.
Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Everson.
Here.
Trustee Wiegand.
Here.
Trustee Marks.
Present.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Duran.
Yes.
Staff present is Manager Gerard and our Civil Counsel Roger Zappa. Committee member present is Mike Springer from Planning, Recreation, and Roads.
Thank you. Next up is public comment. If we have anybody that'd like to address the board, come up to the podium, please. Give us your name and address, if you would be so kind.
Certainly. Thank you for your time. I am Francine Soriano, and I live at 1715 Woodridge Avenue. I came to address the roads look fantastic, by the way. Very much appreciate it. But at the end of last year, when Woodridge was finished, a small hump was placed at the end of our driveway. And I had assumed that had to do with the drainage and so forth, because just beyond my driveway to the north, there had been some issues of pooling. And I thought erosion control, that type of thing. That was not a problem. But then, within a few days, a week or so, I came home from work again, and I don't know if they had some extra asphalt or not, but they added a little more of a hump to the driveway. Aesthetically, it looked horrible, so I wasn't happy with that. But was thinking I'd get used to it. Over the winter, as the winter comes and you get the buildup of ice, it was horrible last winter. I had called and talked to the township and got the names of Mark Davatella and Dave Wiegand. I spoke to Mark last November and expressed a concern about the look of it, not fully understanding the concern or the problem of the ice buildup and so forth with the plows coming by. My run is around 11:30 at night. Anyway, having a small car, it's terrible. So I called again, I emailed, I was in contact with Andra, who we had some emails going back between Mark and Dave and I, expressing my concern, documenting all of it. I did get a call in June 16th from Mark, and he explained that he would have to look into it, but what they would do is they would come and melt it down, heat it up and melt it down to lower that. When I thought everything was going to get taken care of, I called again when they were doing Huron and Norwood, which are on either side of me, thinking, okay, the construction guys are there, they're going to come and do this. I was told, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it. It's not going to happen right now, but we'll take care of it. So I let it go again, called and reminded again. In September, nothing, no response to my emails. And then I called 2 weeks ago and spoke with Andra, and she mentioned that it was going to be at my expense if I wanted it taken care of. But I had been told repeatedly and was in constant contact throughout the process why the equipment was there to have this problem taken care of, and it just wasn't. So I'm here to ask someone to look into it.
Okay. We can, if you're finished, we can either discuss it or comment. We can't do any bantering back and
No,
forth.
absolutely. I'm here just to give you my concern.
Sure.
And let you discuss it amongst yourselves and see if anything could be done, and if someone could contact me.
Sure.
I would appreciate it.
That
Yeah, I
would be
just-
great. Dave, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I've looked at the issue a couple of times, and the reason it was done initially was because of the problem with the water coming off of Woodridge and pooling in the side yard. The side yard to the north is quite a bit lower, and And I think this was done, it was just 2015 or 2016?
2016 was when Woodard was.
It was that summer that is why they added that, to keep the water from the side yard.
See, and I don't ever remember having a problem with water in my side yard. It was on the road, there was a huge puddle there that was quite dangerous, that cars would go by and hydroplane, but unless it was into my neighbor's yard, I don't know.
And that may be your neighbor's yard to the north of you there?
We split that.
Okay,
We're
that's
kind of
where the
right.
water was collecting.
Okay.
And anyway, that's why that was put in there. And totally up to the board. I mean, it's,
I guess I'd have to have more information, maybe talk to Mark or go and look.
well, the reason that's the reason it was put in. And it's my opinion, if you remove it, the water's gonna end up in that side yard again. And that was the reason it was put there in the first place, was to keep it from pooling over the side yard. And it's not just her yard, it belongs to the resident immediately to her north, I think, yeah, her north. That's why it was done. If the board wants to undo that, I mean, that's purely up to the board. I don't think that Mark can give you any more information than that. That's why it was done. And
So what you're saying is you think it needs to stay the way it is?
I think if it doesn't stay the way it is, you're gonna have water in ponding in the side yard, which is gonna raise some whole more issues, and I'm not, it's not just this resident's issues, but it's the resident to the north of them that would also have issues with it. And that's why it was done in the first place, was to alleviate some of those problems. So,
If I would have known that, I would have got his input, because I've mowed that yard numerous times and I've never had ponding there. And I'm only asking that it be removed in my driveway, not in the sides, either side, and only to lower it down so that it was the second addition of that extra that was put on mine, which is going down Norwood, mine is a bigger hump than my neighbor's.
I would mention that the resident to the north has the same configuration in their driveway, the same hump to keep the water out. The same situation, except when it goes into his driveway, it wasn't going into that area because it was still moving north, so it was going into the other side of his and into his driveway. So the reason that was put in is to keep the water moving down the street, which is the intent of the road rehab project to start out with, is not to make the situation any worse than it was. So it's, like I said, it's not up to me. I mean, it's up to the board if they want to send somebody out there to remove it.
Okay.
But the hump is 3 inches. It's not more than 3 inches.
Let me give Mark a call tomorrow
Okay,
and see what I can find out from him.
right, because with my 13-inch tires, 3 inches is a lot.
What was your address?
1750, I'm in a brick house around the corner, right across from,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you too. Okay, I'll take care of that tomorrow.
Okay, just to finish my comments on that.
Mm-hmm.
This, along with the rest of the issues that were with drainage issues and that type of stuff, when I was out discussing this and talking to them, I've always preempted everything by, I don't make decisions. I make recommendations to the manager. And that's where I stand now. I mean, it's not my recommendation that it be removed. It's strictly up to the board and the resident if they want it removed.
Okay. Let's see what more information I can get. Okay, any other comment in relation to hers? Okay. Next up is the consent agenda, which tonight will consist of approval of regular meeting minutes of November 8th and the draft budget work session minutes of October 25th. And you will note that the November 8th minutes are at your place because there were a couple extra lines in there that the clerk took out. So you wanted to make sure that you saw what the final was going to look like. We also have bills payable in the amount of $322,780.77. We have a budget amendment, number 2017-09, so the consent agenda will have to have a roll call vote later. We also have received committee reports and other reports, including the following: the election statistics report, road committee agenda of December 5th, and approved minutes of October 3rd, draft minutes of November 8th, recreation committee agenda for November 21st, the Sheriff's Department October report, Fire Chief Marshall's report of October. I did not have one this time. I did not have a report. Also, the financial and treasurer's report for October. Correspondence not requiring board action is a franchise fee quarterly payment from Charter and a notice of a hearing from UPCO, which is in Lansing.
Move to concur with or approve the consent agenda.
Support, and I'll comment on the budget amendment. The budget amendment is 2017-09, so it's the 9th one this year. The highlight of that budget amendment has to do with the fire fund, primarily. Authorization is requested to reallocate the revenues expenditures due to updated activity forecast. Revenues were originally estimated high, primarily taxes, charges for services rendered, and other revenue. Firefighting will require an additional $20,000 due to the high volume of runs on trend. It should continue throughout the end of the year. The offset will bring the fund balance to zero with the principal fire hall loan payment to River Valley Bank. So it's that's the budget amendment. Primarily needs more money due to high volumes of runs.
Okay. And roll call?
Okay. Trustee Marks?
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee LaRue?
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand?
Yes.
Trustee Everson?
Yes?
Treasurer Johnson?
Yes.
And Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Then, unless there are any declaration of conflicts of interest, I need a motion to approve the rest of the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Next up is Board Education. Looks like our staff is not here. I know we got a fire call right before the meeting. Not sure if that's where the chief is.
No, Ron had asked me if he needed to be here tonight, and he really didn't have a major report, so I told him not to book up any more time. And you're right, there was a dispatch just immediately before the meeting, but then we were called off. It was actually a city issue.
Okay, that's good. I did watch a program, speaking of fire, on Christmas trees the other night on public TV, and it was pretty telling, the difference between, it was a, what do they call it, UL, United Laboratories, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens when you don't water your Christmas tree throughout the whole time it's in the house, and how damaging that can be. I'm sure, Dan, you could, tell us volumes, but the difference between that and even an artificial tree. So just make sure, because most people get their trees around this time of year, around Thanksgiving weekend. Just be careful, make sure it's watered constantly. And be careful. Yes, John?
Just a new cut helps as well. And
Yeah.
they've been around for a while in some cases.
Yep, they pull them out of the lots pretty early. Public Works, did we have anything else, do you know, Randy, from Kirk?
I think Kirk is pretty much worn out. No, he had some appointments today that had him out of the office for most of the day, so, again, I told him he could beg off tonight and not rack comp time.
Okay. We did end up canceling the last of our work sessions on the Public Works budget. We had 4 of them set up, and we didn't need them. So we kind of got through it.
I'll be talking a little more about that in my manager's report as well.
Okay. And we will have, is the December 5th, is that our, I was going to say open house,
Public hearing.
our public hearing? Okay. Community linkage is next, where we talk about any external issues that are coming around. Randy and I had a little conversation this morning. I got to thinking about our fire department, or our police department contract. And we had discussed whether we were going to take our 80-hour contract, which is up December 31st, and reduce it to 60 hours. And if you remember some of the discussion during the work session, budget work session, that would save us somewhere around $45,000, since we don't have any really extraneous money left over once we cover some of the other health insurance and those kinds of items will come up. But one of the things we talked about was reducing that time and reducing the coverage to just patrols and resident issues and those types of calls, since this is an addition to the regular service that the county provides. The sheriff gives everybody in the county service. We're paying for additional coverage, and the intent years ago was for the residents. It kind of morphed into including the retail district. And what we had suggested during our work sessions was that we would say the contract would just be for the residents and those calls and traffic and tickets and that kind of stuff, eliminating the retail side of it. So I started thinking retail fraud could affect Pride Printing or McDonald's or Wendy's, or, you know, it's not just the big boxes. And that's kind of where we were focusing, partly because they had had such a huge impact from the tribunal side with our tax base. But State Farm could call, I could call, you know, so we're going to have to figure out what we want to do and what we can do. So Randy checked with the Sheriff's Department today, and they are going to, maybe the sheriff and the undersheriff come in, or maybe the captain, one of the 2 or 3
Captain
of them.
Kangas.
Will come to our next meeting. But I wanted to give you a heads up so you can kind of think about that. I don't know what we'd be allowed to, you know, even Captain Kangas said, well, you can't do that. How can you portion those out? But this is our contract for extra services. So we're thinking, and maybe that's a question for Roger too, that if we're contracting for extraneous services, we should be able to set up what we were looking for. So I just wanted to give you a heads up so we can think about it, and maybe we'll have some questions and more information at our next meeting in 2 weeks. Go ahead, Dan.
There are a lot of other patrols on the road at the same time, and I don't know logistically if we can, you know, just specify what we want. I think it's our money. We should be able to specify what we want him for. And if it's retail fraud, there's state police, sheriff's department, other sheriff's department units that are on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they should be able to cover any fraud, no matter where it is, big box stores or Pride Printing or anybody.
I just wanted to kind of make you aware of it, because retail fraud could be other places.
Sure.
John?
I think that's the question that's being asked. Can we surgically identify who we don't want them to go to? And I think that's a good question. I think that'd be difficult to attain.
Especially because the majority, if you count how many businesses are, majority, I would say, have not gone to the tribunal. but that's also blossomed, remember, into the mid-level type, the car dealerships and restaurants and car repair places that have gone to the tribunal, as well as department, you know. So it isn't just retail either. So it's just something to think about. Pete?
I'll go back to my comment I did several, last year, not too long ago, when I asked the patrol officer down in Appleton, and they've been through the same thing as we're going through. And that's why they set up with the stores, under $100, they take care of themselves. Over 100, then they call. But we should pursue that with the sheriff's department and also the stores. You know, instead of saying, well, we're not going to come, or we're not going to go here or go there, because if we do, we cut out all the small ones. So you can't do that. But if you do work out some kind of a program at over an X amount of dollars, you call, and we'll take care of it. But, you know, not to go up there for $5 and something like that, because every time you go up there, and this is what the officers told us, it's 2 hours labor. So if you see 6 or 8 in your report, double that, and that's how many hours out of 60 that they're sucking up. So you have to have some kind of agreement with them that we'll respond after X amount of dollars or something like that, because someone else has already done the problem, has the problem, they cured it.
Okay. Dan?
I was going over the sheriff's report on the two deputies, the different deputies, and I mean, there's quite a difference between traffic stops, and I would like to also see on the report how many hours are spent. It's just not showing the amount of hours if they're there, how many hours are spent on traffic patrol, on everything. Just a little bit better breakdown than really what we're getting from them.
Okay. We can address that in the next meeting too, or you can ask them, or otherwise I made a note. So maybe we can request that. Dave?
I don't think the discussion ever was to eliminate those that have applied for the dark store coverage and eliminate them from any kind of sheriff's department coverage. The issue is the number of hours of the 80 hours we're paying for that is going towards retail fraud as opposed to what it is intended to be going for. And I think if you just got to kind of keep focusing on that, you can't make it retribution for going for a tax break.
Because like I said, a lot of those haven't gone to the...
And this would be a question for our attorney, but it just seems to me if have a contract and we're paying the bill, we can designate what they do with it and then what they don't do with it. And we're not telling somebody that if there's a problem at one of the retail stores that they're not going to show up, but we're just saying they're not going to show up for the run-of-the-mill retail fraud. And I would think we're well within our rights to do that.
Yes, Randy?
The issue of dark store was not an issue that came with my recommendation or suggestion. It is simply a matter of we have less money than we've had in the past, and we have very specific things that as a local government we must provide, and some things we provide that we don't have to provide. And the two primary things that we provide out of the general fund budget that are not required are recreation, amenities, and a law enforcement contract. Now, the law enforcement contract, the suggestion that I made was for the board to determine what it is that you want to do with your contract for the roughly $200,000, about $195,000 a year that it costs you for that contract, recognizing that we've had a sizable reduction in revenue. You've just come to a consensus budget, and that budget has about $8,500 excess revenue over expenditures for 2018. That's your cushion in the general fund. $8,500. That's one repair on a vehicle. It's not much. So my suggestion was, looking at the services that we currently provide in law enforcement, and that's a voluntary service, if you eliminated your contract and said we're not going to have a contract with the sheriff's department this year, you'd put $195,000 back in your general fund, and you would not impact law enforcement services in the township, because all the trustees that have spoken so far are absolutely correct. The state police and the county sheriff are responsible for law enforcement in our township. Years ago, the township board, when money was available, decided to provide additional services in the township for law enforcement because at the time, there were a rash of break-ins, and there were a rash of vandalisms, and there were other issues that were going on in the township that you wanted to be addressed. So you specifically funded additional services specifically within our township and provided a patrol car for that service to the residents. As the commercial district grew, their demand grew. So your choice is, do you continue to provide at 80 hours and tap your general fund for a sizable amount of money to provide services to a segment of the community that has the ability to provide their own service in that area? Most places, commercial sector provide their own loss control internally. Certainly the large corporations do. Many of the small businesses do through camera systems, through surveillance systems, through independent contracts with security agencies, all kinds of things. So the question is, you have a fixed dollar amount to spend. How do you want to spend it? And what do you want to purchase with that dollar? That's the question that I brought before the board. If the board wishes to continue as is, we roll the dice basically that we're not going to have a major event like a failed heating or ventilating system here in the township hall that has to be repaired that isn't budgeted for. So that was my concern as the township manager and the budget director. Had nothing to do with tax tribunal. It had to do with reduced revenues. And it's not just the tax tribunal or the businesses, it's the governor and the legislature as well. Reducing taxable values, reducing items that are on the tax roll, and dealing with revenue sharing. So it's a multi-pronged, but the bottom line is we have less money to work with and increased demand for service.
Good synopsis. Okay. Anything else anybody is hearing from the public that they want to mention? Issues? Okay, we can move on to number 8 is policy discussion, consideration, and development tonight for MDOT US 41 projects. Jason come in. He has probably an update for us. I did contact, if you remember, I told you that a couple of us met with Elise Matz from Senator Peters' office because they called me last year and asked when we talked about the underground tunnel if there was something they could do to help at the federal level. So we did have a meeting with her last week, and she was kind of skeptical as to whether they could do anything for us. She gave me a couple sources to check. One of them was the USDA in Gladstone, and I have been in contact with her. They do have loans available, and I thought if that were something we decided we wanted to explore, it was an option. If we want to contribute, because we've kind of said that we were hands-off, we didn't really want to contribute to the tunnel, partly because we don't have the money. And then I found another link today, and I sent that over to Jason. So he's going to give us an update on where we are with all of our options.
Good evening. Tonight you're being asked to consider a resolution that'll lock us into a couple things. One is the ownership and maintenance of the tunnel, should it be constructed, and the other is for the required matching funds to construct the tunnel. Regarding the ownership and maintenance, we have had discussions in preliminary verbal agreements with the DNR to maintain and operate the structure and the trail in the winter as part of their grooming operations. And we've had discussions with the Nicomenon Trail Network to maintain and operate the trail and the tunnel in the summer months. That would include, blowdowns, trees removal, perhaps some light grading if there's some areas of the gravel that need to be graded. In my opinion, in talking to Marquette Township about their tunnel, and they've had that for a number of years now, there's virtually zero maintenance that they've performed over the course of the time that they've had their infrastructure in place. If a light bulb goes out, I'd be more than confident in our building and grounds crew to maintain a light bulb or something of that nature. The funding is a little bit different. You see some big numbers on that resolution, but bear in mind, as of this week, and we did receive a $25,000 contribution from a new business coming to town. I've not comfortable with releasing the name of that contributor yet because they have a protocol they would like to follow for their cash donation, and I'm waiting to hear back on that. Some of you may know who it is, and we're very grateful for that. So the magic number that we have is $125,000 that we need to raise between now and October of next year. The resolution needs to be approved either at this meeting, preferably, or at the latest, the next meeting, so that MDOT can move forward with their design and their plans. There is a grant opportunity available, of which I was made aware of this evening, and it is a rural development grant which favors micropolitan areas, of which Marquette County is a part of. It requires a 30% match, and it can only be a cash match. And it just so happens we have a bunch of cash on hand. You can apply for $100,000 and have a $30,000 cash match, which we already have. Marquette County is being favored for these projects, and it involves food and agricultural, forestry, mining, oil and gas production, and tourism. I think we checked the box for tourism, and I think we checked the box for a multifaceted, I'm reading through the application. That grant application would be awarded in March of 18 with a deadline for submittal in January of this next year. I'm confident that we can come up with the rest of the money. We have a meeting with Eagle Mine next week. We've had some positive conversations with a couple other entities in town, and I think since this larger box retailer provided a sizable match, we can go to the other larger retailers that may benefit from this and kind of tout that. So we're asking the board to make a commitment tonight, but I'm still hopeful and confident that we can come up with the rest of the required matching funds prior to next year. Open for questions or comments.
Go ahead, Ernie.
What if we don't come up with the dollars?
MDOT, as a last resort, does have a low-interest loan for infrastructure. And I didn't want to bring any kind of loans to the township board because I'm confident that we won't need that. We have pretty strong support in the community. We're talking about a $2.5 million project, and we have $125,000 left to raise. Thus far, we have around, I think it's $80,000 in cash donations. That's a pretty good amount of money with some big hitters still left out there that we'll be meeting with. We have legislative support. We have a meeting set up next week with Representative Combenzi, and I know that former Representative Kivala, or late Representative Kivala, was in attendance at DNR meetings. I relayed that to Representative Combenzi, that he was supportive. I've also talked to the DNR, and the DNR is really adamant about this project going through. In fact, a portion of the work, and I'm going to see if our budget can be amended, because the trail from the Iron Ore Heritage Trail to the tunnel on the south side is complete. It's done as a result of the snowmobile trail relocating trail number 14 this year. So that portion of the project is essentially done, and I don't know how much it would reduce the overall budget, probably not much. But the DNR, in talks with Ron Yesny and their representatives in the Trail Division, are confident that they have some more money to put at the project too. So everybody I'm talking to, whether it be MDOT, the DNR, everybody's pretty confident that we're going to get to our dollar amount. And that's the best I can tell you.
And if we don't, what happens?
The township would be on the hook for the remainder.
I got concerned.
Whatever we're not able to come up with.
I'm concerned with that because remember when we first started, we were not going to get involved with it dollar-wise at all.
Understood.
So if we pass this resolution, we are committing the township for dollars. We don't know quite how much that's going to be at this point in time. Now, that's part of it. The other part of it, and when you're talking about the railroad lighting and the landscaping, I'm real concerned with that because of the roundabouts. We didn't request the roundabouts. Did we? I don't think we ever requested roundabouts.
No, this is their idea.
MDOT did. So now they're saying we have to put in lights and all this other stuff at our cost. I'm not happy with that. I'm not satisfied with that. If we had requested the roundabouts, then I knew that we're gonna have some dollars coming through from the township. But being we had no say on it at all, I'm not in favor of that, of paying for that at all. If they want lighting there, let them pay for it. They're the ones that are pushing it at this point in time. So if that's staying in the resolution, I'll tell you right now, my vote is no on that.
So one of the things we did talk about too with lighting at the DDA level was not having to focus so much money on the east end because the west end would be more covered with lighting from the roundabouts. So we're also in the process of expanding the DDA west. So if some millage or contribution from the DDA could be put toward the lighting, that's an option too. We may not have to pay for it. But that doesn't answer this question, right now. John?
Repeatedly, this has been going on for a couple of years now. And repeatedly, whenever the board, individuals or the board as a whole, would talk about what was the involvement going to be for the community, the taxpayers, we were repeatedly told by our manager, there's no money in the budget for this. We believed that. Following that, when we brought up questions about who's going to be maintaining the ongoing maintenance of this, people said there are communities that don't have a big maintenance. We won't have one either. If there wasn't going to be an argument in this motion, in this resolution, that we're going to have to put up with the ongoing maintenance of this, and not, for us not to question what that's going to be, just accept comments made by people who have no mortification at all for having told us there wasn't going to be any expense. I don't think, in the interest of the people of this community, I'm interested in supporting this at all. It's just a last-ditch attempt when you couldn't find the money. They couldn't come up with the money by this date. We get promises of further commitments in the future. If this is when they would need to know whether we're going to spend township money, taxpayer money, that was pledged that we wouldn't have to commit, then I think it's the wrong thing to do, and I will not vote for it.
Anybody else? Pete?
I went by, we're only referring to the one in Harvey, John. The maintenance is nothing. They don't have to paint it, they don't have to sweep it, they don't do anything. And that's where I think Jason is referring to. If you commented from other places, I think you were referring to the Chalkley one that you got your information, and that's what we were told. That their maintenance might be a light bulb or something like that, but otherwise it's concrete and there's very little, if none, they don't do nothing in Chalkley. That's what we're told.
You do know,
What?
trustee, that the Chalkley Tunnel has no motorized vehicles. It's not the same. No motorized vehicles at all in the Chalkley Township Tunnel. No four-wheelers.
What's it say here, John? What's it saying here? Non-motorized?
Well, snowmobiles, I think he's thinking, and gasoline and, yeah, so it might.
But we're talking
be a little
about
different.
things falling apart or breaking down or something like that?
The point is, it's not the same.
Okay. Anything else, Pete?
No, but I gotta believe in Jason that he can come up with more money from this thing. And I think it's an asset to the community. And 125,000 is a far fetch from the 2.5 million, I guess it was to start with. We talked about this year, supporting this. The comment before about the roundabout and lighting in that, why do we do that? We tell them we don't want it? If they think it's that safe, they should pay for that. Are we on the hook for the road, the highway, fixing the highway and stuff like that for the safety? No. Why are they throwing the lighting on it too, so? I like the idea of the underpass, because I think it'll solve a lot of problems and maybe save a couple lives on it, the way this traffic here, 32,000 cars going by every day. And people are taking their life in their own hand, just trying to get across the highway, so we have to come up with some kind of a plan to get it through. And this so far has been about the best plan out there so far. But we still have to come up with $125,000, and I think we can hit that goal with a couple more resources and that, so.
Dave?
I think, number one, I support the underpass, I always have. I believe the residents have demonstrated their support for the underpass. We've got some $80,000 coming in support of that. The maintenance issues have been addressed with talks with the trail people and for grooming and NTN for the summer maintenance. There might be a minor light bulb or something to replace, but are we really gonna shut the whole job down for a light bulb? And as far as the money that's left to be raised, we have another year to raise that money. And I think we're selling everybody here, especially the planner McCarthy, who has put the bulk of the effort in here, short to suggest that we can't come up with another $130,000 out of a $2.5 million project. I don't see how we cannot get this to just exactly where we said it was going to be. It's going to be a $0 out of the township. And if it's not $0, it's going to be so minor. It's 0.5% right now. The overall project is what we have left to come up with, and we've got a year to do it. And he's got a grant setting there now, another grant to apply for that is going to take care of all but $30,000 of that.
Potentially.
I mean, and we still have 11 months to go. I think everybody that's involved in this has demonstrated that it can happen. I think we've demonstrated that the residents are in support of it, just by the money that's sitting there and been pledged already. I don't see why we wouldn't move ahead with this. I don't think we're taking a big chance for the $130,000. I think it's going to be there. No doubt in my mind it's going to be there.
How can we guarantee that?
You can't guarantee it.
I know we can't.
Put your name
We'd
on
all
it.
like to see the project go through,
There's-
but we told our taxpayers that we would not support spending any dollars out of the taxpayers' money to put it through.
And I think we're still headed for the same thing. I think we're still headed for no tax dollars to be spent. You can't guarantee it. I mean, the same as you can't guarantee that you're not gonna destroy a fire truck over there and have to come up with a few $1 million to replace that. There aren't any guarantees. Everybody has put forth a solid effort on this. We put together a lot of time and effort, and to shoot the whole job down for $130,000 just seems very short-sighted.
Where are we gonna come up with it? If we need to,
We're gonna come up with it right there where he's suggesting we're gonna come up with it.
what are the chances? What would you say the honest chances are that there will be $0 from the township?
90-10.
John?
I just want to remind the supporters, we've gone through the budget session, and we have eliminated from the budget, because we don't have extra money, something is critically needed as a generator for the township facility. Something that we were going to put together so that we could use the township community center for a major center for our citizens should the need arise. It would also be available to other agencies had they ever needed to have a place to work out of when there was power nowhere else. We also needed to have a generator, and we keep repeating the need for the generator, or if we lose power to the township hall, everything is dead. The generator is the key to keeping operations going for all of the operations. That's one. We just got through talking about cutting down police patrol in the community because it seemed to fit a likely place to reduce a cost. There are other things that we have just worked through the budget and either eliminated or put off because our budget is tight. We don't have extra money. And then a recommendation comes here for us to do this. This what's before us. And I think it would not be in the best interest of the taxpayers of this community. And it would be not in the interest of keeping our pledge to do what's proper and right to do this at this time. If the state wants to have this thing, and they are so eager to have it, then let them come up with the funds. We probably will always be saddled with the attachments of funding for things that go with the development of the highway. I don't think there's a way you're going to avoid that. But this is not tie-barred to the tunnel. It's not tie-barred to it in any way at all. This is a decision that you get to make right here, whether you're going to spend pledge, taxpayer money, in a budget that we don't have any money in to spare. We got something less than $20,000 excess to play with if an emergency comes up. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, more ridiculous, when you start to pledge money for this.
Jason, is this resolution from MDOT, or did we put it together, or,
No, it's from MDOT, required
Okay.
by MDOT.
so it's not changeable?
In what way? I asked one way, and that would be if the number was up to a specific amount. But they didn't, he wanted, Rob Turbo, the director, the Ishpeming TSC, was specific in the language.
Okay, so it's probably not amendable. I didn't get the lighting. I didn't know we were gonna have to worry about lighting. I thought it was just the tunnel itself. And the lighting pertained to the roundabouts.
It's all part of the 2019 project. yeah.
Okay.
Well, the lighting is the roundabouts, right?
Correct.
Yeah, but it's not really tied to the tunnel.
Right.
Does this have to be voted on tonight?
He mentioned either tonight or at your next meeting.
I looked at it as a safety and welfare also. I didn't just look at recreation, but people going across our highway up here, and we have several people getting hit already, and we got more and more people going across the highway, trying to get across the highway. And that's why I looked at it also. It's not just recreation and stuff like that, so.
It's a multifaceted project.
Right.
It's a community enhancement project. Is it absolutely necessary? Nope. The township will keep marching on just the way we always do. However, you have a lot of people that are interested in this project and that are vested in the project, whether it be the DNR, MNRTF, the trust fund with their hopeful grant that we have coming from them, MDOT with a federal grant for conditional approval of $2.5 million. A lot of people coming together to assist Marquette Township with this. And actually, the hardest thing I've had to explain to anybody is how and why Marquette Township is not financially committed to the project. And I've reiterated over and over that we don't have the funds, but we believe that the desire and the need for the project is there. And so far, we've hit our marks. We were approached by MDOT. We didn't know that this resolution was actually coming until last week or so. We were told that MDOT's not going to start billing the project until October of 2018, because that's when they go into their final design phase. They're going to bid the project out during the winter, and they're going to hit the ground running in the spring. So they gave us that extra time to raise the remaining funds. And so that's where it stands now. I am confident that we'll come up with the rest of the money, but I certainly understand and take to heart the comments of Trustee Marks and Treasurer Johnson. No doubt about it. But I firmly believe that the project's going to be funded, and that I'll be proudly able to come back to you and announce that we've come up with the funds that we've needed, and we have maintenance agreements in place, and that the township, other than having their name on the ownership of the structure itself, will not be required to expend taxpayer money to own or operate a tunnel. And when I said multifaceted, it really is. It's a recreation project. It's an economic development project. It's a safe routes to school expansion. It's non-motorized now, but in the future, the state law may change on whether or not four-wheelers are allowed to traverse the tunnel or not. It would certainly be my opinion, when you're always trying to diversify your economy and your funds, to allow those people who want to come into the community and spend money, they should be able to get here by foot or horseback if they want. So that's where we stand. I understand your concerns, but it is it's imperative that if this project is to continue to move forward, and staff time and funds are continued to be expended on this project, that we come up with a decision either this evening or at the next meeting, preferably this evening, to continue to move forward with it.
Two questions then, Jason. First of all, what is next meeting our drop-down deadline that the project will not go forward if we do not pass this by the next meeting? Is that your understanding?
It's my understanding, yes. And in fact, I believe that there should probably be two resolutions that come forward. One would be without the tunnel information on it. Because if the roundabouts go forward, we still have to pick up the tab on the lights. Now, I've been adamant about this as being a recreation project, the tunnel portion. And it is. It's an add-on. The lighting is something that, there's going to be a meeting for the general public that doesn't know on December 6th at 4:30 here at the Township Hall. And that's going to be a MDOT open house meeting to get all the information that you guys are looking for regarding the design, why the lighting's not funded by federal dollars, et cetera. So I would advise you, and there'll be a flyer to come out on that. That'll be right in the community room here.
After our next meeting?
Yeah, it's Wednesday after.
Yeah, it's on the 6th.
Yeah.
Meeting's on the 5th.
So, yeah, we could talk to Mr. Turvo and ask him if there's any flexibility in this. But, I know Manager Gerard sent out the resolution last week in hopes that there would be some questions asked of me or Manager Gerard. I didn't receive any from any board members, assuming that you guys would, take us to task here at the meeting, and that's fine. I'm not used to failing. I haven't lost many battles in the planning world, and I don't intend on losing this one.
Well, my second question then ties into that. If we, because you know your sources of people you've been talking to, I don't think the majority of them are residents. I think they're either groups or big box or, some commercial, other than a few individuals. So I don't know that we totally have resident support. But if we were to put this off until the next meeting at least, would you be able to get to the people who are interested and have not made a commitment to give us a little bit more of a, I don't want to say guarantee, but some kind of an insight as to what contribution we can get toward that 125? Now, I mean, even the email I gave you today, that's up to 100,000, and there's $800,000 available. So we go for the 100,000, but that doesn't mean, we might get 10. So it'd still kind of be in the lurch. But is there any way to pressure the people that you know that have not made a commitment to give us at least a ballpark? Is that, or
Between now and the next
the
board
next meeting?
Yeah, potentially.
Even if they don't say their name, or, they don't have to,
Well, I can tell you it's not going to be, a group of individuals. It's going to be corporations or organizations that make the final push, that see the benefit, that want to have their name on a plaque outside of it. People go past it and be recognized for their charitable contributions. So.
this off. Randy? Or recommending to put it off?
As Jason mentioned earlier, he does have several meetings scheduled over the next week with some participants that may be large portions to this. But I think the biggest issue is new Representative Kim Benzie. We really need. I'm as nervous about this as anybody. To be perfectly honest with you, I think it's a great plan, but it's expensive. And I know the board has made a commitment, and Jason and I have talked about it, about the commitment of not involving township dollars. We need to get to the governor. The governor is all about a Detroit to Ironwood Trail connection, continuous. And, I've mentioned that before. I think there are ways to get to the funds to make this happen. We're not talking about a huge dollar amount. I think it is attainable. Can I guarantee it? No. Would I bet on it? No. but I think it is something that we can work towards. There's always an escape. You can always escape from a project. The time frame that we're talking about here, this meeting or the December 5th meeting, is to meet MDOT's internal schedule of committing dollars to projects, and that's what the urgency on MDOT, the local MDOT's part is. It's their state mechanism that they have to meet to get their funds allocated for the remainder of the project. In terms of the 19 and 21 projects, they go on a 5 to 7 year time frame. So I think challenging Jason and me to see over the next 2 weeks what we can come up with as guarantees is probably fair on your part,
It was
to come
so-
back for the meeting on the 5th.
It was suggested too by Elise from Senator Peters' office that she's aware of some funding statewide. And she said, I think you need to talk to Cambenzi and Casperson and Deonda, and see what they are aware of, because they're supporting it too, just like John Keevil was.
Everybody is telling us that the DEQ, the DNR, wants this to go forward, and there may be some things going on in the background that aren't public, or could be started very easily with the right contacts, and that's why we're hoping that new Representative Cambenzi can help us out with that, along with Senator Casperson.
Going back to the lighting on the roundabouts, I'm not enthusiastic about that at all, and came up a DDA possibility. DDA, 1 mil in DDA will bring you a little over $200,000. That's total township wide. Now, if you just go with it, within the area itself, you're not gonna come anywhere near that, which means you will not have enough dollars to even start the first phase of it without borrowing. And once you get the lights up, you're gonna have to continue maintaining them. So that dollar is gonna come from DDA. So if we have any plans on DDA for anything in the future within that area, we've already committed funds there. Because the maximum we can go is 2 mils in that. And I can't see putting 2 mils or putting even 1 mil on that at this point in time. If you can come up with some kind of funding on that end of, that's fine. I think the other end of, have to come up with some other type of funding.
Well, we're looking at it as a whole package, and that's what we're trying to work through is funding for that entire package in some form. Obviously, it's not going to come out of the general fund, even if the Menards-Escanaba case is favorable to us. That's won't be seen until 2019, 2020, whatever that might be. So yeah, we're looking at this, and Jason and I have been talking about it. We're looking at this as a complete package. To be able to bring back to you as to say, this is how it's going to be accomplished.
Pete?
Jason, is there any option on this, say we don't want to pay for the lighting?
It's being paid by federal dollars, and federal projects do not allow for lighting.
It's the same thing that City of Marquette
Yeah.
did too. They have 6 roundabouts to provide lighting for. But to Trustee or Treasurer Johnson's point, I've been, and as have you, a liaison to the Township Business Association for going on 4 or 5 years now. And the proposed projects that, the DDA, or I shouldn't say the DDA because it's not the Business Association in total, but those projects, the 4 things that they've hit on that have been ingrained in my brain for the last 5 years, we're touching on with these road improvements: aesthetics, safety, lighting, and pedestrian access. And I feel confident that with the DDA expansion and a potential levy, I think that we can sell that to the business community through a well-articulated plan, working with our partners in MDOT. And we did talk about asset management, improving access to businesses, especially on the east end where it's congested with multiple curb cuts on both sides of the road. Those can be consolidated. Deceleration lanes can be installed, but we have to work with our partners to accomplish that. So from the DDA standpoint, I'm ready to dig into that. That's right up my alley, and something that I think will be very successful with. There's many examples of successful DDAs, specifically townships in the state of Michigan, with projects that range far and wide from anything from lighting to pathways, small farmers markets, pocket parks, lots of different things that we can do as a group of individuals that work together as a team to accomplish big goals on the corridor, along with the road resurfacing projects that MDOT's proposing.
The DDA, as I mentioned before, 1 mil generates 200,000, a little over 200,000. Valuation in the township is about equally split between business and residential, and that's somewhere in that vicinity. So just using a figure of 1 mil equals 200,000, you cut in half, you got 100,000 somewhere in that vicinity. Now, I don't know the valuation of the DDA itself anymore. I have no idea in that. So just using a flat 0.5%, half of the valuation. So it could be a little bit more, it could be a little bit less, I'm not sure in that. But here again, it goes back to if you commit that to start with, you don't have it for anything else into the future until that portion of it gets paid for. If you're doing any additional planning on 41 or anything like that for the DDA area, you don't have those dollars available to you. So that's something else to consider if you're moving forward now.
That's $200,000 per year, correct?
That's $200,000 per year,
Township-wide.
township-wide. You cut it in half because that's approximately what it is, half business and half residential.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But I don't know how much of the businesses that we're talking about reside in the actual DDA itself and that as to what that valuation is. So that may be less, a little less than half, I'm not sure.
Well, and that's one of the reasons we're expanding the borders too, especially going west. Pick up some of the new, actually it'll come toward my end too. It'll include me.
It includes, at least preliminarily, all properties that are zoned for commercial development.
So even if there isn't a business there, we still get tax dollars.
It's not just along the highway either, it's north as well.
Yes, Randy?
Well, Jason, would it be possible if the DDA could contribute towards this project?
Which one?
The underpass?
I would recommend no.
Okay.
I would like to keep it as a recreation type project, have it funded by those interested in it, and have it be maintained by those interested in it.
Especially because the DDA is going to incorporate so much of what we want to try to do with the east end, with lighting and the corridor part and walkways, and that's going to be a big undertaking.
The two roundabouts will take care of the lighting for half of our 2.7 miles of 41 linear mileage. So essentially, what'll need to be accomplished on the east end, based on the Parsons-Brinkerhoff study, would be to either light the intersections as recommended, or put in staggered lighting along the highway, which would be also qualifiable as a DDA expense.
That's what they do on the roundabouts. They stagger the lighting on each side.
And those are high-efficiency, low-maintenance LED lights.
I think we need some more information, so I'll move to put this on the next agenda.
Support.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thanks, Guy. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Yeah, you too. All right, put that on our next agenda. All right, next up is, we didn't have anything pulled. Committee updates. It's probably going to be another long discussion. It looks like neither of our candidates are here tonight. They were going to try to make it. One had a rather emergency, so we were kind of stuck with him. You do have the memo from me with my recommendations for Planning Commission, Rec Committee, Downtown Development, 2 seats, and then we still have 3 open. Planning Commission, I would like to do these tonight, so I am recommending these tonight. Filling a term to expire December of 2018. Greg Place has asked to fill that position. Recreation Committee-wise, expiring 12/21. Todd Caruth is a reappointment. He has shown interest. Downtown Development is also expiring, and the renewal would be 5 of 2021. That's Ron DeMars, that's a reappointment. And Kelly Hillier-Genshaw, who was supposed to be here tonight too, has shown interest in the Downtown Development, expiring 12 of 20. Now, she
Do
has,
you want support for that?
I think we can do them as a group, but that's up to the clerk.
It probably would be cleaner to do them one by one, 'cause that's
Okay.
always what we've done, so.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Greg,
let me
please.
go a little further then, please. And maybe we'll have to put this off because it's not, well, I don't know, I guess I could make it tonight. Pete has expressed an interest in coming down from the Recreation Committee, and Kelly has also asked to be on the Recreation Committee. Kelly Genshaw, who we're doing. So we can save that until next time if you want, but I just wanted to give you that heads up. So we do have openings then, one more on the Downtown Development that expires May of '21. Board of Review, we really could use, that's a very small group. We really could use some help on the Board of Review, just one person. It expires December of '18. So if you know of anybody, it's not a high commitment. It meets, 4 or 5 times a year. It's not an every month type thing. And some of the meetings are most of them are in March, one in December, one in July, I think. It's very, it's a few hours and that's it.
You do get a small stipend for that.
Oh, that's true too. I don't. So
Do they explain,
Think about
Lynn,
that.
do they explain the duties
Absolutely.
online?
Yep. We have
Online when they want to look it up?
we have a book on the Board of Review
Okay,
we can
okay.
loan out. There's actually classes that MTA provides and webinars and stuff. And then beautification, I was going to ask Jason and I forgot, his wife has expressed an interest because Peggy Loy wanted to step down. So somebody to, right now, especially since we're working on the corridor and trying to figure out what we're going to do with that, it's mostly just the flower boxes at the entrance to the township that we'd appreciate having maintained. Peggy's done an awesome job. It looks great with our signs. They had them kind of primed up. And they do work with the Business Association a little bit too, so we have kind of double funding. We have a little bit in the general fund and we have a little bit from the Business Association. So if anybody's interested in doing that, or even if Jason's wife wants to and somebody wants to help her, that would be great too. So I just wanted to go through all of those. This is all we have for committees right now.
And Carol is a master gardener, certified master gardener.
Why do you want to put it off to next meeting?
Oh, no, the Kelly applying for the Recreation Committee.
I know, but
because
that
she's
would
not
be a
here.
second motion by this.
Right, but I didn't confirm that with her. Pete just told me
Okay,
today
well-
that he kind of wanted to come off, so I didn't want to commit her to
How
something.
about the ones that we,
But the 4 that are on top, I would like to do tonight,
okay, when do you want to start?
right now. Go ahead.
Okay. Greg Place, Planning Commission, so moved.
Support.
Motion and support, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Todd Garuth, Recreation Committee.
Reappointment,
Support.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Rhonda Morris, reappointment. Downtown Development, so moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Kelly Hellier Genshaw, Downtown Development, so moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Comment.
Aye.
Oh, hang on, sorry.
Need to spell the name right.
Should be-
SSCHAW.
I guess we can look in the thing.
Mr. C.
Missing a C.
Okay. Oh, you're right, I'm sorry, that's my mistake. Okay,
We knew that.
GENSCHAW.
Yeah, I was talking to you.
Well, she did give me the last, her email address was wrong. She gave me the wrong address, so I thought maybe it was her. Okay, I take the blame. Okay, we'll correct that. So we have a motion, did we have second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay, that's a big thing off of our plate. The current committees expire December, so anybody that's still in place is still in place till December. And then I will get a hold of Kelly and ask her about the rec committee, if she's interested in doing that. And then if anybody else has any ideas of volunteers, we have a great base of volunteers that help with our committees. They work hard. There's a lot of satisfaction in it, though. Okay. Anything else on that? All right, any public comment? Anything you want to share? No? Okay. Meeting wrap-up. Announcements. Anything? Anybody wants to share? Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes,
That'd be it for me.
yes.
Managers report?
Thank you. You have a printed report in your packet. We'll make a couple of additions to it, a couple of changes. We did meet with Semco. As you were reported at the last meeting, we have authorized them, provided a property examination permit that basically allows their engineers to come on our property and do their soil borings and drillings and assessing the property for final placement of the planned routing of the pipeline. It's not an easement, it's just a license for them to come onto the property and do their explorations. The Catch Division Christmas tree lighting is taking place on November the 28th, Tuesday, November 28th. It'll be just after Thanksgiving. I think Trustee LaRue put a poster on the front here, John, if you can zoom in on that. It has all the details, and they are posted numerous places around the community and also distributed to the students in the schools in the area. Will be taking place in the Westwood Mall parking lot between Applebee's and Aspen Dental Clinic, as it has in prior years. Again, as in prior years, we'll have seasonal music. The Township Fire Department will be assisting Santa Claus in arriving about 6:30. Excuse me. The Sheriff's Department will be present, just in case some unwelcome visitors might show up, try and steal Christmas. Refreshments will be inside the mall. Santa Claus will be inside the mall, meeting with residents and visitors, taking wish and want lists and seeing what can be accomplished there. There will be coffee and juice and cookies and things, refreshments inside there as well as performances by some dancers and some singers.
Who supplied the cookies and refreshments, coffee?
Well, who else but our neighbor right next door, Super One,
And who got the coffee
and Big B Coffee,
and the popcorn?
Honor Credit Union.
Okay, just
It's
checking.
all right there on
That's good.
the poster. So
Okay.
anyway, that will be occurring on the 28th. Everybody is welcome. It's not just a township event. It's to kick off the Christmas season, get everybody in the appropriate mood for it. Hopefully, we'll have better weather than we had last year. The Christmas tree base has been moved. It's no longer going to be out by the highway. It's actually in the parking lot now. We put the I'll call it a pipe. It's actually the base, but we put it into the blacktop earlier today. Tree is being donated by the Wiegans for their property, and that should be. I'm not sure if it was taken down today or tomorrow, but
It's a little windy today, they didn't do it.
it was breezy today, and also we just cemented in the base. So probably tomorrow, possibly tomorrow, come down and get that moved. Holiday schedule for the Township Hall here. We will be closed so Thanksgiving Day, the 23rd, and also on Friday, the 24th. Christmas will be closed on Monday, the 25th, and Tuesday, the 26th. And then for New Year's Day, Monday, January 1st, will be closed. But also during those times, if you have a need, we do have staff on call. Obviously, the fire department is on call, and obviously the sheriff's department is on call for anything that may happen. But also our service staff is on call if you have any water or wastewater sewer emergencies. All you have to do is dial the office, 906-228-6220, and then follow the prompts to get the call out. As board members know, we have been talking with the Board of Light and Power regarding the Marquette Energy Center and the installation and operation of the new generating equipment that they have. We do have a number of residents that feel that they're being negatively impacted by that. We've been having ongoing conversations with the BLP and with Tom Carpenter, who's been very helpful, has visited some of the properties and is certainly aware of what the issues are and the concerns. He has experienced them. I talked with him today. He does have the engineers from Wärtsilä who manufactured the engines coming to Marquette to evaluate the situation with the engines. He also has their sound consultants who did the original sound study coming back, I believe, on the 11th of December to do those studies over again with the engines running and see what mitigations may be possible or available. Not making any guarantees, but he is definitely willing to look at potential mitigations. So far it's been a positive relationship. I am hearing from more residents. We did send the questionnaires out to the area that we think is potentially affected following the last board meeting. We do have some of those back in. I did receive another call this morning from a resident who will be filling one out as well. Probably by your next meeting on the 5th, we'll have a pretty good feel for what the issues are, and I'm not sure if the board wants to possibly schedule a public hearing for that meeting. We do have a budget public hearing at that same meeting, so up to the board how you want to address that, or hold it off for the meeting on the 19th or whatever. But at some point you may want to have a public hearing to have the BLP come in and have the residents come in to see what solutions there might be. Budget sessions. I'm modifying my manager's report because you've achieved a consensus budget at your last meeting on the 17th, so the budget sessions scheduled for November 20th and November 21st were canceled, and that notice was put up within the 18-hour notice period. So at this point, the budget resolution has been constructed. The public hearing ad has been placed with the Mining Journal. It will be in the paper on Monday the 27th. That has us set for a public hearing on December the 5th for the consensus budget. And then after that, you are free to consider the budget and consider its adoption prior to December 31st. You do have a meeting scheduled on December 19th that could occur at. And then we would be finished with the budget. Corridor Committee, last met on the 14th. You won't be seeing those meeting minutes until probably your December 12th meeting, but the minutes from the October 10th meeting is in your packet. I think that's all that I have right now, unless there are any questions from board members.
Anything for the manager? Pete?
Randy, what was the fire trucks doing over by Brickyard Road the other day? You had 2 trucks over there?
We had a situation where in the construction of the Myers gas station, a subcontractor of a subcontractor was installing the guardrail along the side of the road, and for whatever reason, and we're not clear why yet, Ms. Digg had been there. They drove one of the pilings through a 4-inch gas line and created a little bit of an issue. So we were rolled as a protective measure, and we had 2 engines and 2 crews standing by just in case the escaping gas ignited, until Semco was able to get there and dig a hole and pinch that line off. There is a possibility that some businesses or residents did not have gas service for a period of time, but that's why. We did not have the event that they had in Oakland County also yesterday, where a 24-inch, I believe it was, gas line ruptured and exploded. They had to evacuate the entire area. So luckily we did not have that. There was no ignition of the gas.
That's good.
Anything else for the manager? Yeah, Dave.
Just curiosity, when that type of an incident happens, it's construction related, is there any way to recoup the funds spent for the fire department?
I would suspect that a contractor or a subcontractor or a sub-subcontractor is going to be on the hook for a relatively large bill that would include our fire department. for reimbursement of our costs. You know, as was mentioned earlier in the budget amendment, we have been running well above average, which we have for the last 3 or 4 years. It's been a continuing increase in call volumes. And that's the reason it was necessary to do the budget amendment, is that we're over what was actually budgeted for the entire year already at the end of October. So budget amendment was within the fire department funds. We reclassified some funds from line item to line item to cover those additional expenses.
Yes, Pete?
I was thinking the other night, is it possible to have a senior meet maybe once a week in our community rooms? They have the seniors come in for a couple hours, and they have refreshments, and they play cards and stuff like that. We started that in Harvey, and they come in, they donate $1 a piece, and it takes care of, after you initially get it started, it takes care of their coffee and their donuts or something like that. They play, some play bridge, some play cards, some talk, and it's a nice setting. They have it Monday and Thursday down there, so I'm just wondering. I wanted to try it last year, but I had to make sure that we could find somebody to help out and be there to do that. And I just wonder if the residents it's something that they'd be interested in.
Well, if it's during the days.
That open up to
Well, sure.
something like that.
Particularly during daytime hours, on weekdays. Most of the rentals that we have are either after hours or on weekends. We do have training sessions that occur during the day. DNR does training sessions, state police do training sessions, several other state agencies or federal agencies do trainings during the day, but those are scheduled well in advance. But there are many days when the community room is open during daylight hours, and we're here to.
It'd be nice to
staff
get
it.
them, they go for, say, 1 to 4. It'd be nice to get the residents up here to see what we have up here. A lot of them come pay their bill, or they don't even come up here, and this is built for them, so I think it'd be something nice we might want to think about.
Yeah, well, if a group like that, all you need to do is get in touch with Andrea,
Okay.
in the office.
Well, I'd like to hear from the residents if they'd be interested in something like that, to contact up here, contact me or something like that, and I can start working on something like that.
Well, this is a community center, that's what it was built for.
Right, that's exactly.
We could probably put something on the back of the utility bill and just say, would you like, contact the office if you're at all interested in doing this a day or two a week.
It's good to go as long as we have power.
Hint, hint.
Well, it is,
We do have, I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
always think of, it's for the seniors, and I talk to different people, and they just laugh because they think, well, who are you talking about? They're younger than you are, for crying out loud. But it is, it works very good down there, 1 to 4, and you go in there, and the people come in, and they visit, and they're all in a good humor, and they get to know each other, and I think it's a good positive thing, so.
Well, we do have analysis being done to determine if we can connect through the conduits that we currently have, the joint conduits between here and the fire department. Now, if we can connect to that generator. We did purposely oversize that generator because it is designated to function as an alternate emergency operations center. So that's why we oversized the generator. It would be large enough in those type of situations where we lose power in the area to power up both fire department and the township center here to keep the servers running and to keep the lights on. So that is currently being analyzed to see if that's possible. And we have some other exploration going on for smaller generator for here if need be.
And the only
It
cost
is necessary.
And the only cost of something like that senior meet would be the power and stuff like that, because,
Well, we're already here, so the lights
Exactly.
are on, so.
and I'll call, so.
Well, we had discussions, along those lines about a potential satellite library and a senior center and, all kinds of things are possible.
Randy, we had talked during the budget sessions about possibly charging more or charging period for some of the entities that don't pay now.
We are, Yeah, we are looking at that right now, and, and basically what we're looking at is not necessarily what other entities charge, but what the average per square foot or per foot is around the area, and then we'll be bringing a recommendation back to the board, probably for your meeting on the 19th, before you adopt the budget, as a potential modification to the fee structure.
Anything else for the manager? Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Review of motions passed. Randy?
Okay, so the first motion was the consent agenda as presented. Second motion was the approval of the agenda as presented. Third motion was to bring back the resolution to the next meeting for the MDOT 41 project. Motions 4, 5, 6, and 7 had to deal with committee appointments. And I don't have any action items.
So on the next agenda, we will put the sheriff's department, and if for some reason they can't make it or something happens, I'll let you know, but.
Yeah, that would actually be part of the public hearing. They would be coming as part of the public hearing.
And then the project, bringing that back in, the MDOT project. Anything else along that line? Yes, Dave?
Are we on 3 there?
Reviewing, yeah, and items for future agenda, 2 and 3.
I know we had talked about the Public Works plan as an agenda in the first of the year. We never really put a date to it. I've been doing some exploring over the last week, and I find a number of documents that are interesting, to say the least, that they're floating out there with, I don't think the majority of the board has any idea what's in the content of them, and I think they'd be some good items to review. I would like to see an agenda item on the 5th, if you could fit it in, to just have a brief discussion about the master plan for Public Works for the Water Department, with a look at some documents that should be reviewed if we're going to discuss it later on. And a couple of those documents are the action that was taken in 2004 for some background. There's an engineering firm, I can't remember the name of it right offhand, that put all this information out.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, probably there's Lewis.
Ayers, Lewis, Northern May, now
Yep.
Stantec.
And then Stantec put one out in 2013. And the interesting thing I find out about the Stantec one is most of the information we were looking for with respect to our water main replacement program was pretty much covered in there. And the last one is there is a DEQ, a master plan on file with the DEQ for the water that we should drag out of mothballs and review. I would think all 3 of those would be some good information to review before we have Mr. Page in to talk to him about a master plan for Public Works. There's a lot of good information there. I've been over the Stantec one a couple of times, and I've been over that 2004, the one from the big long words there that I can't figure out, Lewis, Norris, May, and Incorporated. There's a lot of background information in there about how we got where we're at and what the potential fee increases they were looking at and they were suggesting. I know that managers suggested these before and shared them before, but I think those are some of the things we need to look at, and we need to get copies of those out to the board members so they can review them and be as up to speed on them as they want before we start into the discussion about where we want to go with Morgan Meadows.
Randy?
Just a little bit of background for board members, because most of you probably have never heard of Ayers, Lewis, Norris, and May. They are a international, they were an international engineering firm that has worked with the township since well before I was here. They were the engineers on the very first water project and wastewater projects. Ayers, Lewis, and Norris and May was purchased by Stantec. They merged with a larger international corporation, which is Stantec. The same people were still there. The same engineers were still there. In fact, the engineers that worked directly with us for our Phase 1 project are still with them. So there's been a lot of continuity, and Trustee Wiegand is correct that we do currently have a 25-year master plan for water and for wastewater that was developed with the DEQ. Basically, that is the projection that we use going forward for water, what our projected growth is and what our projected needs are 25 years downstream that we have to meet today as we develop our current water systems. So that's where that discussion comes from about we have to meet the future demand now when we did Phase 1 and then talked about Phase 2. It's to meet that 25-year build-out that was projected. And they are literally in mothballs because they were the actual printed plans. They predate our electronic media, and the actual printed plans. I had them on my bookshelf. They're in storage right now. So I'm trying to dig those out so we can provide you copies of them. They're actually binders that have the projections of where it was projected that growth was going to occur and what was going to be necessary from an infrastructure standpoint to support that growth and develop put in place a development plan, which is what Superintendent Page has been basically following and not been very able to explain to you where it's coming from. So I think that would make a lot of sense for you to have the ability to take a look at those master plans and see what he's talking about. And it's like Trustee Wiegand just mentioned, there was lifespans projected in that study, and it was very, very detailed. So we're just in the process of trying to recover. It's like when you move from one house to another, your garage is full of boxes for about 2 or 3 years. Well, that's where we're at. We've been going through those boxes in the new facility here, and so we'll be digging those out of the storage building down the street and get those ready for you.
Well, will we have them for the next meeting, or?
I sure hope so, because if we can, if they're buried, we'll get them from the DEQ because they are on file with the DEQ as well.
Dave?
The 2004 report that was put out, that's what the well field was started on, correct?
Correct.
And that's what that was completed on, is their recommendations. And the 2013 from Stantec has actually got a 5, 10, and a 20-year projection on there on where we should be and what our infrastructure should look like in 20 years. And this is all the stuff that we've been sitting here discussing that we're just scratching our heads because we don't have any information. And all due respect to Kurt, he's trying to explain what's in those reports, and nothing's better than, I just sat down and read this Stantec report. I went through it twice, and it's amazing the information and how much clearer it makes that whole thing for discussion.
Yeah.
As far as where these recommendations are coming from and some of the forecast and where we should be at. And the Stantec report even had the hospital projection in there, and up the sky is in there, which you can obviously adjust out, but an update on that master plan is not that unrealistic to think we can have that in the first half of the year if we put our minds to it. And it's right in all those documents. We just need to brush up on them and go at it from there.
Right, the 2004 report
I don't think
was.
we want to get to the point where we're going to start looking at hiring an engineer to put this whole thing together, because I don't think we need it. It's all right there.
No, all that needs to happen is updates for current material pricing. But the 2004 study was Phase 1. That was the five wells that we have south of Grove Street. And then in 2013, the update was the updated cost estimates for Phase 2 going forward. So if the board decides to go forward and finish Phase 2, what you would be looking at is basically a much smaller update of current pricing from 2013 to 2017 or 18, whenever it is that you actually do it. So it would be certainly not a re-engineering. The engineering is all still good. It's basically just cost factors. What the cost of labor is, what the cost of materials are. Updated to current, whether it's more or less or same.
And all I'm proposing for is on the December 5th agenda is that those be available for distribution to the board members and just some general background information on what they are, and it's good reading material over Christmas, so you can be ready for the first of the year.
We would basically, rather than duplicate them in print format, we would probably scan those and put them in electronic format on jump drives for you, so you can just plug them into your computer and scan them. You know, go through and read whatever you want to see.
Are ordinances on the board drive or the,
Not all of the ordinances are. The most recent ordinances are in electronic format, but we do have the ordinance books in the vault. So any ordinance that you want, we can easily look up and scan for you, but we have not scanned all of those ordinances going all the way back. I
was
think
just
since...
thinking of water and wastewater, I've got them on my desk.
Those we have electronic, yes. We do have the water and wastewater, we've scanned those, and they are in the because we use them a lot. So they're, you know, like the noise ordinance and the fire code ordinances and those that we use a lot, we have scanned those, and they're on your website to access. But if you want to know about roaming dogs, you know, yes, we have that ordinance, but it's not been scanned. It's in hard copy in the ordinance books, easily found. There's a full index, so we can easily, if you ever have a question about if we have an ordinance on something, we have lots of ordinances in the
Everything.
in the book. In the books, they just have not all been scanned and put into electronic format as yet.
Some of the information that's on file will also be revealing about how far north we carry water and sewage. We haven't talked about that very much, but it's something that needs to be wrapped up in all of the discussion about where we're going.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
We
Growth.
talked about an overlay, you know, you listen to Dave, lots, he's overlay this, overlay that, and
I mean, it's,
stuff like that. You could have all your sewer, your water for the whole township, where they are, what they are.
but we have a lot of potential, both to the east and to the north.
Oh, absolutely. Our biggest struggle to the north is the Dead River. That's our biggest struggle to the north, is getting across the Dead River with utilities.
But there's a lot of property between
Oh, lots.
between the end of the sewage line and the end of the water line and the Dead River.
Absolutely.
You'll be a few years filling that in.
Oh, there's quite a bit, you know.
And
and
it
but,
has great potential.
Oh, it has tremendous potential, and probably not very far downstream. What Trustee Wiegand was mentioning about the hospital and the Up the Sky, even if those developments don't happen, something else is going to. You know, so that's why those projections are in there. That property is there; it's ready to be developed. We do have major developers, large-scale developers, talking to us every day, talking to residents every day about acquiring their property. We get calls all the time from a resident asking us, "What about XYZ who called me and said, do I want to ask me if I want to sell my land?" It's happening all over.
The land to the north and the land to the east is easily developed.
Very much so. Yeah, and probably within the next 5 years.
And money is coming back to this country, thank God.
Some of it's even legal.
We get enough to put that generator in there.
We'll try.
Any board member comment? Bernie?
I have just one. We talked about a little bit about the borderline power. I have to comment on the article in the Mining Journal. It was very well done, and the information was there. Really let people know what was happening, where we're going with it and that too. So I have to congratulate the Mining Journal for that article. That's right.
Anything else? Randy?
Yeah, just to let the residents know, we've came to a consensus budget. I think we had 5 or 6 meetings. Our budget will have a no increase water and no increase wastewater volume rate. And it's going to be with the debt retirement and the base fees, I think it's a $1.80 increase for the whole year. So that's not too bad. Less than 21 cents a month, I think people can handle that, so. It'll be a little bit more for some businesses, but it won't be.
Depending on usage.
In usage. It won't be that severe. But the residents have to understand, by doing that, we've kind of put a moratorium on capital improvement projects this year because we've accelerated a couple of those this past year. So we told the superintendent to slow down a little bit, and we'll catch our breath and then move forward. So I think it's pretty good for this board to hold the budget status quo for what we're dealing with right now with revenue shortages and increased cost in other areas. So I think we did a pretty good job.
It didn't even take us as long.
Nope.
Dave?
3 things.
Oh, I don't have enough paper for
The
that.
first is the agenda. We talked a number of times about committee reports and updates. They don't appear on the agenda yet where there's a spot to put them in.
I noticed that, and Andrew was already gone.
I
I'm
would
sorry.
think it would be someplace under 9.2, but it would be nice to see someplace where that's supposed to happen. Just for everybody's information, the planning commission has been canceled for the last 2 times, so there's no report there. The road committee I reported on last week, or the last meeting after that had been done, and the minutes from that meeting are in your packet tonight, so if nobody has any questions on that, that's been covered. And the primary focus on the recreation committee meeting that happened just before this meeting was discussion on the underpass and all the ramifications about that. So I guess you could consider that meeting to be updated. One of my other comments was for the public, and I think the public, if you watch this, you should be able to see the struggle that the board is having with this underpass and the roundabouts and the lights. And if you want your opinion heard, now would be the time to make that opinion known, because if you don't make your opinion known, it's very likely that these will go down to defeat. And you just need to step up. Now's the time to wait until the first of the year and then say, geez, I just wish you would have done something with that. Well, this is where the public involvement becomes crucial. You need to step forward. You need to say what you want to see. You need to express your interest. If you've got an interest in seeing these projects go through, you need to say so. Because without public input, we're going to have a hard time getting all this done. The last thing I wanted to comment on was the generator comment. It just seems to me that every time we want a generator someplace, we put it in, we bolt it to the concrete, and there it sets. And if we never need it on a particular building, we never use it on a particular building. It just seems to me we should be able to buy a generator that is a little more portable than that, so that we can move it where we need it. I know the city does that on their Lincoln Street tank as a portable generator. It would just seem to me that instead of spending $10,000 every time we want to put a generator in for whether it be the community center or whether it be the Cox pumping station or whatever, we should be able to make that a little more portable, so we only got to spend the $10,000 once instead of 2 or 3 times. And that would be my comments.
Sounds good. Pete?
Just to follow up on Trustee Wiggins' comment about the public stepping up and letting us know. Every time something they don't like, we have, a group of people coming in and saying something. You should come out and tell us which way you'd like to see the township grow. You like or you don't like it. And the same thing with the senior meet and stuff like that. Let us know if you're interested. No sense of us going and trying to do something the way we feel. They have to respond to us. Today, electronic, you can email, you can drop a letter, you can call. I mean, it's so close, but let your feelings be known. And also on the driving, the roads are so much better than we've ever had. They're smooth, and most of the people they're sort of driving a little bit too fast. And be careful of the road conditions are a little slippery, it'll slide a long way. And also, when you see a car coming from the right or the left, and it's a little slippery, don't think that they're going to stop, because if they go a little bit fast, they might slide right through. And the next one is, wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Anything else from anybody? Yes, Dave.
You had three
The
already.
the
I used
slippery,
all your
the
lines.
slippery roads comment, I mean, you used to be able to always bank on the fact that if you got out of control, you'd fall into a pothole and you'd stop. That isn't the issue
Take
anymore.
care of that.
You had to get that in, eh?
That's it. Move to adjourn. Move to adjourn.
Any
Support.
support?
Support.
Cut out your
All in
rice.
favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. 8:22 PM.